Okay. So let's start. So yesterday we have seen the way of measuring the mental age. So depending upon the chronological age or biological age of the child, an age appropriate standardized test of intelligence as made by Simon Binet is given. Each of the tests would consist of 6 items. For getting each item correctly answered, there are 2 months of mental age earned. So when the child earns all the questions, all the 6 questions, he earns a 1 year of mental age. So suppose there is a 5-year-old, he is given a test designed for 5-year-old. His mental age, if suppose he solves all the questions correctly, then he at least have 5 years of mental age, that is the basal age. And then we systematically give him tests which are designed for senior age groups, and we try to see that how many questions the child is able to solve correctly, and accordingly we award him mental age. The age group above which he is not able to solve a single question correctly becomes the ceiling age. So Simon Binet test produces 2 types of results. One is basal age, another is ceiling age, right? Okay. नहीं भाई, उसका क्रोनोलॉजिकल एज मान लो 5 साल है, आप तो 5 साल का टेस्ट उसको दे रहे हैं, सब सही कर रहा है, फिर आपने उसको 6 साल का वाला भी तो दिया, 6 साल में वो 4 क्वेश्चन सही कर रहा है, फिर आपने उसको 7 साल वाला दिया, उसमें वो 2 क्वेश्चन सही कर रहा है, तो टोटल उसका मेंटल एज कितना हो गया? 6 साल। क्रोनोलॉजिकल एज लेकिन उसका 5 साल है, तो फिर उसको 4 साल वाला देंगे। अगर 5 साल की उम्र में 5 साल का क्वेश्चन सॉल्व नहीं कर पा रहा तो उसको 4 साल वाला देंगे, इसका मतलब वो मेंटल रिटार्डेड। Now Simon Binet test allowed identification of children with mental acceleration as well as mental retardation. Simon Binet test allowed the identification of children with mental acceleration as well as mental retardation. Mentally accelerated children could be given selective grade promotion. Mentally accelerated children could be given selective grade promotion, while retarded could be given retarded could be given special education. Now coming to limitation. Limitation of Simon Binet test.
Can you repeat the last sentence?
Okay. And mentally retarded children could be given special education. Okay. Limitation number 1. Simon Binet test could not ascertain that with increasing chronological age if mental age is increasing or declining. Simon Binet test could not ascertain that with increasing chronological age, mental age is increasing or declining. Now see, very interesting funda. Suppose the chronological age, that is biological age of the child, is 5 years, and say his mental age is 3 years. So the child is mentally retarded by 2, that is 1 unit. If you remember, if the difference between chronological age and mental age is 2 years, then it amounts to 1 unit of mental retardation. That means this child is mentally retarded by 1 unit. Now, when this child will double in age, say when he has become 10-year-old, his mental age will also double because it is moving at its own pace. So mental age will be 6 years. So as his biological age has doubled, his mental age has also doubled. Same situation. But if we apply this formula, that CA minus MA, then how much is the difference? 10 minus 6 is equal to 4. That means the number of units of mental retardation has doubled, which is not the case. So here we find 2 units of mental retardation. So can we say that as the child is growing older, he is becoming more mentally retarded? No. The fact is, as his age has doubled, in the same rate, his mental age has also doubled. As his chronological age has doubled, at the same rate, his mental age has also doubled. But according to the criteria for mental retardation, he is now doubly retarded. देखो, है ना? So this formula of measurement of mental age could not ascertain that with increasing age, whether the mental age is increasing or declining. Is it clear, online students? Okay, so this is first limitation. Second limitation. Sometimes the mental age may be obtained in fraction. Mental age may be obtained in fraction. Sometimes the mental age may be obtained in fraction, which made it difficult for educationalists to identify the category of the child. Which made it difficult for the educationalists to identify the category of the child. Number third, Simon Binet test was designed only for children. Simon Binet test was designed only for children, and hence it could not be used for testing intelligence of adults. And hence it could not be used for testing intelligence of of adults. And number 4, Simon Binet test was designed in French language. Simon Binet test was designed in French language, that was non-understandable to the English-speaking community. Simon Binet test was designed in French language, which was ununderstandable or non-understandable to the English-speaking community that dominates the world population. So Simon Binet test was highly localized for France. So Simon Binet test appeared in 1904-05, was limited in space and age group. Only French people could take it, and that too French children could take it, right? So an advancement was made later on by Louis Terman. Louis Terman from Stanford University translated Simon Binet test in English language. Louis Terman translated Simon Binet test in English language, following which it was known as Stanford Binet test. So Simon Binet test became Stanford Binet test after being translated in English language by Louis Terman. Okay. Also, Terman borrowed the concept of IQ, which was coined by William Stern in the year 1914. Louis Terman borrowed the concept of IQ from William Stern. So William Stern in 1914 gave the concept of IQ, that is intelligence quotient, and Louis Terman borrowed that and replaced it with mental age. And he replaced the mental age with IQ and replaced mental age with IQ. So Louis Terman replaced mental age with IQ. So in Stanford Binet test, intelligence was measured in terms of IQ, which is obtained by dividing mental age by chronological age and multiplying it by a factor of 100. So Louis Terman borrowed the concept of IQ and he measured intelligence in terms of IQ instead of mental age. And IQ is obtained by the formula mental age divided by chronological age multiplied by 100. Multiplied by 100 eliminated the possibility of a fraction. So scores will not come in fraction. So multiplication with 100 eliminated the possibility of fraction. Also, it eliminated the problem of ascertaining. Also, it eliminated the problem of ascertaining that with increasing chronological age, mental retardation increases or decreases. Also, it eliminated the problem of ascertaining that with increasing chronological age, mental retardation increases or decreases. Let's see how. Say the mental age is 3, chronological age is 5. What will be the IQ? कितना? 60. Now this child becomes 6 year in mental age and 10 year in chronological age. That means his age has doubled. From 5 it has become 10. What will be the IQ? 60. But when you apply Simon-Binet test, we find that the mental retardation is doubling. As the chronological age doubles, the mental retardation is doubling. But with this formula, you can see that there is no change. There is no change in the mental retardation. Okay? So his IQ at the age of 5 is also 60, and it progresses at the same rate. When he's 10-year-old, his IQ is still 60. So the problem of ascertaining whether mental retardation is increasing or decreasing is also solved by this formula when we measure intelligence in terms of IQ. Okay? Being published in English, it was understandable to the world community. Being published in English, it was understandable to the world community. Okay. Now, Stanford-Binet test appeared in the year 1939, and since then it has undergone 4 revisions. Stanford-Binet test appeared in the year 1939, and since then it has undergone 4 revisions. Stanford-Binet 1, 2, 3, 4. Each revision has incorporated the objections raised by different psychologists. Each revision has incorporated the objections raised by different psychologists. For example, Weschler, who was a clinical psychologist, raised an objection. Weschler, who was a clinical psychologist, raised an objection that intelligence test becomes redundant. Intelligence test becomes useless or reductant after 15 years of age. After 15 years of age group. As fluid intelligence increases up to 15 years. So intelligence test becomes redundant after 15 years age group because fluid intelligence stops increasing after 15 years of age. Now see, if IQ is measured in terms of mental age divided by crystallized age into, by chronological age into 100, then mental age, that is fluid intelligence, will develop only up to 15 years, after which it will become static. But what will continue to increase? Chronological age. So when the same child becomes 25 years in chronological age, his mental age is still 15. So he will become mentally retarded at the age of 25 according to IQ test. And when he is 35, he will become doubly mentally retarded, and so on. So this was the objection raised by Weschler, who was a clinical psychologist. Okay. Therefore, Weschler advocated Wechsler advocated separation of IQ test for adults and children. Therefore, Wechsler advocated separation of IQ test of adults from children and designed age-specific test ठीक है. So Wechsler designed two types of test, Weiss and Wischt. Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. Weiss stand for Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale and Wischt stands for Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children. Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children. मैं लिख ही देता हूं. Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, that is Weiss, and Wischt is Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children. तो दोनों का टेस्ट अलग होना चाहिए क्योंकि अडल्ट्स में फ्लूइड इंटेलिजेंस नहीं बढ़ता 15 इयर्स के बाद. ठीक है. Further, he proposed that the scores obtained over intelligence test should not generate a specific value. Scores obtained over intelligence test should not generate a specific value. Instead, it should be represented in normal curve. Instead, it should be represented in form of normal curve. अब देखो, मान लो मेरा IQ 90 निकला और उसी टेस्ट में आपका IQ 95 निकला. I got 90 IQ score, you got 95 IQ score. Now you are being unnecessarily happy. The 5-point difference in IQ might be because of testing error, maybe because of my instability of mood. Now that can lead to false perception amongst the test takers. So why don't you represent the scores in form of normal curve and you give a grade instead of a particular score? So 90 to 100 is one grade. Whether you obtain 90 or 100, you are in the same category. Okay? 100 to 115, same category. 75 to 90, same category. So why not giving the score in form of standard deviation from the mean? Why not giving the scores in form of grades or standard deviations from the mean? Okay. Now this is known as deviation IQ. Deviation IQ is the extent to which IQ deviates from the mean or normal, either on higher side or the lower side. Each standard deviation includes 15 points. Each standard deviation in deviation IQ includes 15 points. So हर standard deviation कितने कितने का होगा? 15-15 पॉइंट का होगा. अगला क्या होगा? 130. 15-15 पॉइंट का डिवीजन पे. So this is 1 sigma. This is 2 sigma. ठीक है. 2 sigma मतलब IQ between 115 to 130. So whether you are 120 or you are 125, both of you belong to the same category. ठीक है. Just give me a minute. ठीक बाबा, कल है क्लास है आपका क्या? कल तो नहीं लिए थे, कल तो Now, advocated culture testing. Raymond Cattell advocated culture fair testing of intelligence. Raymond Cattell advocated culture fair testing of intelligence. He said that the verbal items in the test could measure crystallized intelligence. The verbal items that involves use of language could measure crystallized intelligence, but not fluid. Because language is something that you have already learned, and degree to which you have learned the language will give you advantage in those items. So it is basically measuring your crystallized intelligence. जो क्वेश्चंस भाषा के माध्यम से हैं वो भाषा मेजर कर रहे हैं। भाषा सीखी जाती है over a period of time. That is a part of crystallized intelligence. That is a part of how much learning has taken place in that language, right? To measure fluid intelligence, the item should be non-verbal in nature. To measure fluid intelligence, the item should be non-verbal in nature, that can measure the concept and reasonings, that can measure the concept and reasoning ability. Cattell's intelligence test consisted of two types of items. Crystallized intelligence.
Sir, there is a lag.
And verbal ability was tested. To measure crystallized intelligence, arithmetic and verbal abilities were tested. Okay.
Sir, there is a problem from your side in internet connectivity.
What happened?
Sir, there is a problem for internet connectivity, I think.
Internet connectivity. All of you are facing that problem.
Yes, sir.
You're not able to see the board.
No, sir. We got a lag from crystalline intelligence test has two type of items. From there, we are unable to hear anything. And also, we are unable to see the screen also for some time.
Now are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now is the problem existing?
No, sir. Just repeat from crystalline intelligence test have two type of items.
Okay. I am saying that in Raymond Cattell's test, the IQ scores produced two separate scores for fluid and crystallized intelligence. For fluid intelligence, abstract reasoning and short-term memory was measured through non-verbal items. For measuring crystallized intelligence, arithmetic ability and verbal ability was measured using verbal items. So now you can get a separate score for your fluid intelligence and a separate score for your crystallized intelligence. All these recommendations that came from Weschler and Raymond Cattell were incorporated. All these recommendations that came from Weschler and Cattell were accommodated in the revised editions of Stanford Binet. All these recommendations were incorporated in the revised editions of Stanford Binet. Therefore, in present form, Stanford Binet provides two separate scores Stanford Binet provides two separate scores for children and adult. Verbal and non-verbal items, comma, verbal and non-verbal items. Comma, the scores are represented in form of deviation IQ. The scores are presented in form of deviation IQ as well as percentile scores. Percentile score means the percentage of population that is below the individual. So if somebody has scored low mark in IQ, he should not be disheartened, because he would know that how many people are lower than him. Okay. So this is the fourth revision of Stanford Binet. Okay. And with this, we conclude the topic of intelligence. Neha, क्या हुआ बच्चे?
So we can't see the shared screen. We can see it only through the camera.
Okay, okay, अच्छा अच्छा. मैं फिर से शेयर कर दूं क्या? क्या करना होगा इसके लिए? ऊपर कहाँ? नीचे कहाँ? इधर? किसको हटाए? कैसे हटाए? फिर से क्रोम खोलें. अच्छा. Now is it okay? यानी हाँ?
Yes, so we can see it now.
Okay, fine. So we have concluded intelligence, right? And now we begin with a new topic from cognitive psychology, that is thinking and problem solving. Thinking and problem solving. So as you can see the name of the topic, there are two structures. One is related to thinking, in which we learn about the ways of thinking. There are different types of thinking. Okay. So there are different types of thinking, and there are different products that the thinking produces. So upon thinking, we develop concepts. So when we talk of thinking, we talk about types of thinking and the product, that is concept formation. Types of thinking and the product, that is concept formation. When we talk of problem solving, we talk of steps and methods to solve problems. We learn about steps and methods to solve a problem. And then we see that what are the factors affecting thinking and problem solving. Factors can be facilitatory or they can be inhibitory. The factors may be facilitatory or inhibitory. So total 3 different types of questions can be asked from this topic. Some related to thinking, its types and concept formation, in which concept formation is most frequently asked question. And from problem solving, they can ask you about the steps to solve a problem and the factors that affect problem solving process. From types of thinking, we have reasoning and decision making. Okay? Reasoning and decision making. Okay? So in total, 3 types of questions can be asked from this topic. This is the overall structure of the topic. So let us see what is thinking and problem solving, and I begin with problem solving. Okay? How do we define a problem? What is a problem? Problem is defined as any situation in which the obvious solution is invisible. Problem is defined as any situation for which obvious solution is invisible. Problem is defined as any situation for which obvious solution is invisible and the goal is hazy. A problem exists in a problem space. A problem exists in a problem space which comprises of 3 elements. A problem exists in a problem space that comprises of 3 elements. Current state, which is known as the problem state, or the uncomfortable state. The goal state, that is the ideal state, the state where you want to reach, which is obviously the comfortable state. Which is obviously the comfortable state. And the third element in problem space is the means. means involve the strategies unknown to reach the goal state. Means include the strategies that are unknown to reach the goal state. So these are three components present in any problem space. आपका करंट सिचुएशन और आपका आइडियल सिचुएशन और उस रास्ते में जाने का जो स्ट्रैटेजी है, तरीका है, these are the three elements which are involved in a problem space. ठीक है? Now, John Beresford has given the steps involved in problem solving. Steps involved in problem solving behavior. And to remember it, you have to remember the acronym IDEAL. And to retain it, you have the acronym IDEAL, where I stands for identification of the problem. D stands for defining the goal. D stands for defining the goal. E stands for exploring the strategies. A stands for anticipating the outcome. And L stands for looking back and learn. Okay? So the steps involved in a problem solving behavior are 5, represented by acronym IDEAL. First is identification of the problem. Second, defining the goal. Third, exploring the strategy. Fourth, anticipating the outcomes. And fifth, looking back and learn. Okay? So once you have successfully solved a problem, you look back and you learn that strategy permanently as an hypothesis, so that you can reapply it in similar problem situations and similar problem space. So first and foremost important step is identification of the problem. If this step is not done correctly, you will never get a solution to the problem. Identification of the problem. If you are finding prelims examination to be scary, अगर आपको पीटी एग्जाम से डर लग रहा है, so what is the problem? Identify it. Problem क्या है? PT is difficulty. PT is difficult exam. Then what? You're not prepared enough. Now, if you identify the problem as PT is a difficult exam, it will remain difficult every time you attempt. But if you identify that the problem is not difficulty level of prelims, the problem is my preparation level, which is very weak, then you can have a solution to it. And there will be different types of solution to both the problems. So first and foremost strategy is identification of the problem. If you correctly identify the problem, only then can you solve the problem. If there is some mistake done in identification of the problem, you will end up with wrong type of solutions. Now I give you an example. There was a multi-storied building. I guess I have given you this example. There was a multi-story building built by a builder and it was sold to the customers. It was a high-rise building, quite expensive. Each floor was quite expensive and customers paid a huge money to buy their floors. Soon after occupancy, Soon after occupancy, the customer started complaining the builder about slow speed of the elevators. बताया था मैंने? So they even demanded their money back from the builder that your elevator is slow. So the builder hired expensive engineers to correct the elevators. But all the engineers reported that elevators were moving in normal speed. There was no problem with the speed of the elevators. Still, the complaint from the resident kept on coming. Despite making such huge investment to hire engineers, the builder could not get away with the complaints. Now, one day, the supervisor of the building found that the residents were waiting for the lift impatiently in their respective floors. One day, the supervisor of the building found the residents to wait impatiently for the elevators on their respective floors, and he correctly identified the problem. He bought one mirror. He bought mirrors for each of the floors and hang the mirrors beside the elevator door in each floor, and the problems or complaint disappeared from the customers. So what happened when mirror was hanged by the elevator on the floors? People did not have to face the boredom waiting for the elevators. They could engage in correcting themselves or make up themselves or combing their hairs. तो लोग busy हो गए और complaint आना बंद हो गया. So problem was not with the speed of the elevator. The problem was the boredom people face while waiting for the elevators. So what the engineers and builders could not identify, the supervisor identified, and he just bought one mirror for each floor, and the complaints disappeared. So when we correctly identify the problem, only then can we find a solution. Okay. This is one thing. Second is second is D. That is defining the goal. Defining the goal. Now see, suppose you are lost in a forest and very soon the sun will set and it will be dark. You realize that it is not possible for you to find a way out of the forest until next day morning, while you are also feeling hungry. Now, the objects which you have with yourself are the ballpoint pen lying in your pocket, a sack or a bag made up of cotton, which consists of some raw potatoes, which contains some raw potatoes, a magnifying glass in your pocket, and some dried leaves beneath your shoes. And the sun is going to set soon. These are the total objects that you have. Okay? So tell me, what will you do? How would you burn the leaves? By using magnifying glass. You will create fire. And then what will you do? You will roast the potatoes. Okay. And then what will we do with the ballpoint pen? Online?
I think on the cotton sack we'll write our details if kuch ho jaye in the night.
On the cotton bag, what will you do?
We'll write for help or our details.
You will write what?
Details, sir.
Details. मतलब
रात में कुछ हो जाए किसे पता सर, फॉरेस्ट ना.
This forest, nobody is around. What will you write in the cotton bag? Yeah, what will you do with the ballpoint pen? I understood. You have created fire by burning the dried leaves. You have roasted the potatoes. So what will you do with the ballpoint pen? या नेहा? क्या? बोलो बोलो. Just see here. What was your goal? Your goal was to satisfy your hunger because you are going to stay all night in the forest. So your goal was to fill up your stomach, and that you have already done when you have roasted the potatoes. You will let the ballpoint pen rest in your pocket. There is no utility of that. Okay? Because you have that object, you have to use it, is deviation from the goal. So here the goal was to satisfy the hunger. It was not to write my adventure. Okay. So defining the goal, being goal focused. So doing exactly what you are destined to do, defining the goal. For example, who are intelligent shoppers? Intelligent shoppers are people who never go for a window shopping. Once they have predetermined that I have to get this product, they would go to the marketplace, buy that specific product and come back. They will shop most reasonably, most cost effectively, and most time effectively. But people who go to the marketplace undecided, they are not able to define what was the goal for which they visited the marketplace. गए थे आम खरीदने और नींबू ढूंढ रहे हैं, ठीक है? तो उनका कभी भी कोई काम पूरा नहीं होता है. How many of you are like that confused shopper? Once you get to the marketplace, you get confused. हाँ? क्या खाने का? अच्छा, ये मेरे घर में भी सबको प्रॉब्लम है. मार्केट जाएंगे, किस काम के लिए गए थे और किस काम में उलझ के रह गए. मेरे साथ ऐसा कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. मैं जब भी मार्केट जाता हूं, मैं ऐसा घोड़े का जैसा ये बांध के जाता हूं. उधर जाना है, उधर जाऊंगा, वो चीज उठाऊंगा और बिना इधर उधर देखे मैं चलाऊंगा, क्योंकि इधर उधर देखेंगे तो मोह माया के जाल में फंस जाए. ठीक है. मुझे बहुत कोशिश करते हैं, दुकानदार बहुत कोशिश करते हैं कि सर ये भी देख लीजिए, वो भी देख लीजिए. मैंने कहा अभी निकल जाऊंगा तुम्हारी दुकान से अगर कुछ भी दिखाया मुझे वही चाहिए. ठीक है सर, एक बड़ा अच्छा नया प्रोडक्ट है, एक बार देख लीजिए सर, बड़ा अच्छा फैब्रिक है सर. हम बोले फैब्रिक वगैरह, मुझे सफेद शर्ट चाहिए, मुझे सफेद शर्ट चाहिए बस, और कुछ नहीं चाहिए एकदम. ठीक है, यू हैव टू डिफाइन द गोल. ठीक है. थर्ड इज एक्सप्लोरिंग द स्ट्रेटेजी. एक्सप्लोरिंग द स्ट्रेटेजीज. Now, exploring the strategies involves determining use of heuristics or algorithms. Exploring the strategies involves determining use of heuristics or algorithms. Now, what are these two terms? Algorithm involves following a systematic procedure to reach the solution. Algorithm involves following a systematic procedure to reach the solution. So formula based problem solving is algorithm, like solving a problem of maths based on a particular formula. Unless and until you apply the formula and you follow the deliberate, the deliberate preparations, or you follow the whole process, all the steps, you cannot reach the solution. You cannot skip any process in between. That is algorithmic solution. Okay. Heuristics, on the other hand, involves applying mental shortcuts. Heuristics, on the other hand, involves applying mental shortcuts and directly arriving at the solution. Heuristics operate on the basis of thumb rules. Okay? Now coming to algorithm. Algorithms involve there can be 4 types of algorithms: means and end analysis, working backward strategy, analogical thinking, and verbalization. So there are 4 types of algorithms: means end analysis, working backward strategy, analogical thinking, and verbalization. First of all, mean end analysis. When we are working over a distant goal, we may apply means and end analysis. When we are working over a distant goal, we may apply means end analysis to determine the shortest route between the current state and the goal state. To determine the shortest route between the current state and the goal state and avoiding detours. By avoiding detours. करंट स्टेट और गोल स्टेट का शॉर्टेस्ट रूट क्या है? मुझे सब कुछ पढ़ के यूपीएससी देना है या सिलेक्टिव पढ़ के मैं पास हो सकता हूं? अगर सिलेक्टिव पढ़ के मैं पास हो सकता हूं तो मुझे सब कुछ क्यों पढ़ना है? Why can't I avoid the detours? I can't be master of all trades. Let me be champion of few. And if that is workable, why to go for detours? So means end analysis involves identifying the shortest route towards the goal state. Then dividing the route into subparts or sub-goals. Dividing the route into sub-goals and advancing towards them one by one. Dividing the shortest route into sub-goals and advancing towards them one by one. So suppose you have to write your UPSC prelims exam next year. So from this time onwards, you break it. The schedule or the target for the month of, say, May, target for month of June, for July, and so on. And you keep achieving each of those targets as you keep achieving, you move in a stepwise manner towards the final goal. This is means and end analysis. Working backward strategy. Working backward strategy. When there is lack of clarity about the goal state, when the goal state has greater clarity than the current state, when the goal state has greater clarity than the current state, working backward strategy may be applied. When the goal state has greater clarity than the current state, working backward strategy may be applied. अभी देखो कितना वैलिड सा चीज है. मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछता हूं. What is your level of preparation right now, as of today, right now, this moment, for prelims? How much prepared are you for prelims? Can you tell me the percentage? Are you sure 60%? Sure. It is not 58%. It is not 63%. Can you be sure how much are you prepared right now? Okay, now let me change the question. Can you tell me how much percentage of preparation you need to qualify prelims? How much percentage preparation do you require to qualify prelims? Tell me. एक फिगर बताओ मुझे. 80%? पक्का? Which one is more clear? The goal state or the current state? You are more sure about the goal state, that if I have to qualify prelims, I should be 80% prepared with the topics. That is more clear. But if I ask you how well prepared are you right now, you are not sure. You do not know how much I am comfortable with polity and how much I am comfortable with geography. कितना मुझे याद है, कितना मुझे याद नहीं है, ये आपको आज की डेट में पता नहीं है. Current state has lack of clarity, goal state has greater clarity. So in this case, we employ working backward strategy. So what do we do? Which is the date of your prelims? 5 June. So we will think that I am going to write my prelims in 5th of May. So next year, my date of prelims is 5th of May. We will keep 30 days in advance. These 30 days in advance from the scheduled date of exam is for buffer, is for unforeseen situations. You may fall ill, you may have some urgent work. So 30 days has to be kept in hand. So if you're planning for next year, you should plan for 5th of May. Now, if I have to write my exam on 5th of May, then by 5th of March, my course should be completed. My course should be completed by 5th of March. So from 5th of March till 15th of March, I will have one revision. From 15th of March, you are working backward from the date of the goal state. Okay? And then you reach the current state. So working backward strategy is employed when the goal has greater clarity as compared to the current state. Then comes analogical thinking. Analogical thinking involves drawing analogy between the known phenomena and the unknown phenomena. Analogical thinking involves drawing analogy between the known phenomena and the unknown phenomena that appears to be similar. Okay. For example, the instrument sonar For example, the instrument called sonar. Sonar is technology. It is used for echolocation. Was developed by analogical thinking with navigation pattern of bats. Analogical thinking with navigation pattern of bats. Chamgadar. You know sonar? क्या होता है? Sonar is mounted in the bottom of the ships. Okay, they produce ultrasound waves, and ultrasound waves pass through the water and hit the floor of the sea and come back. The time taken in coming back of the signals give the estimate of the depth of the ocean, so that any kind of collision and damage to the ship can be prevented. Now, this technology was difficult to think unless there was analogical thinking done with navigation pattern of bats. Now, bats are blind, they can't see. Chamgadar andhe hote, unko dikhta nahi. But they fly very fast without hitting on other objects. So they use this technology. Bats produce ultrasound waves, and the ultrasound waves move ahead of them and they come back to them, giving them the distance of the objects ahead, giving them information about distance of the object ahead. And by looking at bats' behavior, the scientists were able to develop sonar technology. So transferring the known solution to unknown problems, okay, on the basis of similarity. And finally, verbalization. Problem solvers while solving the problem engage in self-talk. Speaking aloud about the problem and the strategy. Helps finding one's own mistakes. And also helps finding one's own mistakes and also what? Arrive at correct solution. And also arrive at correct solutions. And also arrive at correct solutions. Now coming to heuristics. As you see, heuristics are mental shortcuts or thumb rules to directly jump into the solution. And there are three types of heuristics. Anchoring heuristics. Anchor is known as the starting point or reference point. Anchor is known as starting point or reference point. Anchor is known as the starting point or reference point from which we begin to evaluate the problem. Anchoring heuristics, ठीक है? For example, in the courtroom, the prosecutor, the public prosecutor, frames charges on the accused person. Frames charges on the accused person. Okay? And the judge's thoughts are anchored to see the accused person guilty. And the judge's thoughts are anchored to see the accused person guilty. As a consequence, the defense lawyer has difficulty. As a consequence, the defense lawyers have difficulty in changing the perception of the judge about the accused person, and hence the defense lawyers face the difficulty of changing the perception of the judge about the accused person that he or she is innocent. So judge is not evaluating the accused person from neutral point because he has already heard from the public prosecutor. So his thoughts or reference frame has already shifted towards assuming that he must be guilty. That is why the defense lawyer charge higher fees as compared to public prosecutor who is paid government salary. आप समझ रहे हैं? क्योंकि वो जज बायस हो चुका है. पहले मुंह कौन खोलता है? प्रोसिक्यूटर. जज कहता है क्या आरोप है, तो प्रोसिक्यूटर आरोप लगा देता है. आरोप जैसे ही लगाया, जज बायस्ड हो गया. अब जज उसको गुनाहगार की दृष्टि से देख रहा है. पहले तो जज को न्यूट्रल पे लाना है और फिर इनोसेंट दिखाना है. तो डबल काम करना पड़ता है. किसको? पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर को. दिस इज कॉल्ड एंकरिंग ह्यूरिस्टिक्स. So judge is using a mental shortcut that okay, why don't I consider him guilty? This is anchoring heuristics. Okay. Another type of heuristic is representative heuristics. Representative heuristics. It involves estimating an example to belong to a category. It involves estimating an example to belong to a category on the basis of observed attributes, on the basis of observed features or observed attributes that are typical to the category. On the basis of observed attributes or features that are typical to the category. Now you are asked to apply these heuristics. I am asking you to apply these heuristics. Heuristics means make a guess. I am giving you description about an imaginary person. Tell me what could be his profession. Okay? He is short-heighted, bald head, neatly dressed up, wears suspects. Is he a lawyer or a farmer? Lawyer. So immediately you applied these heuristics and you jumped into conclusion he is a lawyer. But is it necessary that he will be a lawyer? He can't be a farmer. He can be a farmer also. But most likely you will judge him or estimate him as an example belonging to lawyer category because the attributes that he's showing are most typically found amongst lawyer. Short heighted, neatly dressed, bald headed, चश्मा पहन रहा है, ये lawyer ही लगता है. This is called representative heuristics. So when you categorize people by using this mental shortcut, कि ऐसा है तो यही होगा, this is called representative heuristics. Third one is availability heuristics. Availability heuristics. Now I am asking a question to this whole class. Tell me, letter K, you're familiar with this letter K? Okay. So out of your lifetime experience, tell me, letter K more frequently appears in the middle of the word or in the beginning of the word?
Beginning.
Beginning. Yes. Because when you search in your memory, you are able to search those words which begin with K. You have difficulty in searching those words in which K appears in the middle. So you are making this wrong judgment that letter K appears more frequently towards the beginning of the word. But in English language, letter K appears more frequently in the middle of the word. This is known as base rate fallacy. So when we judge, this is known as base rate fallacy. So when we judge or make decision on the basis of most easily available information in the memory, when we judge or make decision on the basis of most easily available information in the memory, we are guided by availability heuristics that may lead to base rate fallacy. That may lead to base rate fallacy. अभी मैं पूछूं, ट्रेन जर्नी और प्लेन जर्नी में खतरनाक कौन ज्यादा है? प्लेन. कितना प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है आज तक दुनिया भर में? एक साल में कितने प्लेन क्रैश सुनने को मिलते हैं? 1 और 2 भी शायद नहीं. कितना ट्रेन एक्सीडेंट सुनने को मिलता है एक साल में? दुनिया का छोड़ दो, अपने देश का ही बोल दो. बहुत सारा. So which is more dangerous? Train accident. But your perception is plane is more risky. Why? Because when there is a plane crash, it is shown as breaking news on every television channel for several days. And therefore it gets imprinted in your memory. So whenever you try to think about accident, plane crash appears more easily than train accident. And you commit this base rate fallacy. Flights are much more safer as compared to train. Okay. So heuristics involves application of thumb rules or mental shortcut to directly jump into conclusions. Okay. Yes, Shivaji, train is more risky. Fine. So today we will conclude here and we are catching up on Monday. So see you until then. Have a nice day. When goal has more information than the current state. Reverse engineering. Exactly. Okay. See you all.